Hey. Welcome to Cozy with Liyah, episode 1. And I'm going to be very upfront and honest. I don't know what I'm doing. But it's because this is the first time I've done it, you know? I've never been on a podcast. I've never tried to do a podcast. I've had the idea, of course, for several years, but never actually acted on it. And it's solo. I think I was letting my fears get to me, and I finally just sat down and said, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do it. I'm excited. I feel like I've gotten some self-care out of it. A lot of the hectic planning around prepping for my first episode, I wish I could say it's been not even I wish, but I can't say that it was a stressful or a bad hectic. It's been awesome. It's been fun. I'm actually doing what I wanted to do for a couple of years, and I think that's something that I'm excited to do. Yeah. So let's get to it. Cozy with Liyah. This whole platform that I wanted to create with this podcast came from the idea of wanting to engage with people who are also navigating the world just like me, or maybe not like me, and that's totally okay. This podcast isn't catered to a specific audience, though I do think that a specific audience might find this more appealing in terms of what we're talking about, but I digress. That is fine. And I think what is important to take away from it is that that's the whole purpose, is that this has some, woman empowerment undertones, and that's fine with me. And part of the marketing that I was trying to do for it and the advertising about it has also been kind of, have womanhood undertones. And I think the way that I express myself as a woman looks different for everyone, every other woman too. And I think being able to define what this podcast was going to look like, and if I wanted to just be, in a womanhood centered podcast, but I recognize that it's going to have womanhood undertones because I'm a woman. And I think that's something that I wanted to kind of play on. So but it's much more than what people would view as being a woman. I think a lot of times when people think of, being a woman, they think of biology. And I think the way I define womanhood is so different, and it's coming into finding myself, and being able to discover new things about me, and being able to camaraderie. I'm big on sisterhood, but I think I also don't just blindly accept sisterhood all the time. And I think those are discrepancies and things that I want to have discourse about. And so that's what this podcast is for. We're going to talk about a lot. We are. So one thing that I want to just say is that there is going to be a lot of talk about, like I said, it seems like it's woman-centric, and that's simply because I'm a woman. But overall, I don't want this to be viewed as a I hate men kind of podcast. That's not what this is. If there's any type of conversations that seem that way, we have to look at it from an outside perspective, that a lot of times we're not calling out a certain group of people. We're calling out the way that this system supports them in a way that's damaging to other people. And so and I'm also a gender and sexuality studies minor. So I've been able to understand the patriarchy so much, and a lot of people I feel like I'm one of those those TikToks I'm a gender studies major, of course I'm gonna blame everything on the patriarchy. And that's a fact, because that's literally the reason for a lot of things. But I think a lot of times, based on the way I talk, a lot of people think it's, oh, she hates men and she's a lesbian, she's not true. None of that's true. And I just have a thing for calling out disadvantaging systems. And especially as someone who is disadvantaged in 3 ways, and probably more in ways I don't really understand as much as the others. A lot of my identities are in like communities that are getting that are disparaged in like the government and like different structures. Don't make me get on the soapbox, guys. But what I'm saying is the whole point of that is don't take that away from this. Don't chop up this entire podcast and what its purpose is to just being a man-hating podcast. That's not what this is. If maybe that's something that you think, let's talk about it. Send me a DM, send me a message. We can have a little discourse about it. I'm never someone who's like closed off to, hearing about certain things. So let's have some conversation. Because I don't want anyone to feel like they can't enjoy this podcast, because I do have a lot of male friends that I'm hoping will also engage with this, who are maybe straight and white, and those are two things that people think is like a bad thing. That's what a lot of people say, which is like, and I don't mean like opposite community saying that. I mean people who are straight and white saying it's so bad to be straight and white. No one said that. But I think I would love to see them also get something out of that, being that I'm something that is not white or straight, something like I'm a thing, a someone. But yeah, so keep that in mind as episodes go out. And with that in mind, one thing I want to do is have feedback. So every week I'll probably post like what'd you think about that episode? And you tell me, oh, I loved it. It was garbage. Those can vary, being I loved it to that was garbage, levels. So be honest. If maybe the topic you wish that we talked about more or something else, or we elaborate on something else, please let me know. I am, like I said, I don't know what I'm doing completely. This is my first time doing this, and I'm doing it on my own. So like, it's not going to be polished, but I do want to make sure that I am, engaging. I don't want this podcast to just be something where I just mouth off and like talk and just, go on a rant about something that I'm experiencing. But I also want this to be a podcast that you all can get something from as well. So if there are certain topics or things like that you think you'll benefit from, let me know. If there's a certain person that you feel like I could talk about, or maybe something that is important to you, maybe I don't experience, maybe you could come talk about that. I don't think that I want this podcast to also just be the things that I experience. If someone wants to elaborate on things that maybe I don't experience, I would love to, have that type of visibility on my podcast. So now that we've gotten that kind of PSA out of the way, not even a PSA, but just letting you know type of thing, I want to talk about what this podcast is going to look like. So I want to start off, I'll welcome everything like that, but I also want the podcast to have a reference towards something that is related to our topic. So, for example, if we talk about dating and there's a TikTok out there about dating, or maybe something in the world that we see, whether it's celebrities, influencers, things like that, that might jumpstart where our topic goes. It also might be something that I experience on a daily basis. Someone might make a comment, or I might have gotten into a conversation with someone where we can have that type of, reference to like, from that topic or that conversation to like what we're talking about now. I want to do that. I think it's also important to like look at the world around us and like reference it to like what we're experiencing. A lot of people think TikTok is just TikTok and it's never like real until it happens to you. I think that's a huge issue already. So I think what I want to do is start with that. So after that, then we'll kind of like go into a conversation, have some dialogue about that. But then also we might have like an activity where we're asking questions and we're getting opinions and we're understanding, and you can hear from me and you can hear from maybe a guest that I have. If that makes sense. So that is the plan for that. And then at the end of the episode, I want to do ins and outs. I'm filming in my living room. We're doing ins and outs. So what I want to do is, this is something that was on TikTok, and it was like people were talking about ins and outs of the year. So something they were bringing into the new year, and then something they're leaving out. I think I'm describing that trend correctly. If not, correct me on my feedback form. I don't know. But what people were doing was talking about, yeah, I already said that, what they were bringing in and leaving out. So I want to talk about that, but for the week, like something that I work on in counseling that I've done for the past couple years is kind of recognizing what in the week is going to push me through, like having something to look forward to every week. And a lot of people think that's, something that they don't, it's too much to ask. They're asking for too much to have something to look forward to every week. But it doesn't have to be like, we're going to go to Cedar Point, we're going to go to Disneyland, we're going to go to, like, that's not what, like, you can be looking forward to laying in your bed. But you want to try to do something that's more of a bigger picture, like doing something, like whether it's going to a formal, whether it's going to the mall on a Saturday, going to the basketball game, having an organization meeting, having an arts and crafts nights, playing video games, and I think for me, this is becoming my, like, in for the week. And, like, so I think that's kind of what I wanted to go with that. And then outs, I wanted to talk about, like, maybe something that has been going on and you want to try to not do, to kind of continue to encourage yourself to support, your own individual experiences, and also, like, your heart, your mind, your spirit, like making sure that you are keeping track of that. So looking at outs is like things that you want to try to discontinue through the week, and more than that, hopefully. So saying, like, I want to leave out not standing up for myself. And I think that's super important to not just have, like, things I want to try to do, but also, like, what do you want to not do this week? Because it kind of lets you call out, the things that maybe you're quiet on about and you don't really speak about. Because I think it's easy to say what you want to do, but, like, what do you not want to do? I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. It makes sense to me, so we're doing it. Yeah. So, that's how that'll go. And then every new episode, every Sunday, it might be afternoons, evening-ish, whichever. And then, we'll go from there. I know some of you already replied. Something that I did for each month, or I want to try to do for each month, is ask for what you want to hear about. There might be topics that we've already talked, that we've covered, or things that might be, like, in the general gist of, like, what usually, or what I've already mentioned that we'll talk about. And then I want you to also, like, let me know, like, respond, whether it's something I didn't think of, like I was saying before, with there might be different topics that I don't understand, or maybe topics that I didn't think of covering that we could cover. And I'm not closed off, like, this is not like a close-ended kind of podcast. I want this to be something that people feel like they can engage with, and something that's, like, attainable, approachable. That's how I want this to kind of go. And I hope you all, take the opportunity to engage and kind of, like, not just let this be something you're listening to, but something you're actually, like, actively listening to and, like, engaging with. So that's how I kind of want that to go. So kind of going in the gist of, like, what I was talking about, I want this to start with. I want to talk about, like, what kind of jump started this podcast. So, like, how this would kind of be what I like, how every topic would be jump started by something in social media, the world, my daily life, whatever that would inspire that. I'm going to kind of do that about how this podcast came about. So, there was a podcast, created by, two men that I do not enjoy listening to talk ever. The podcast is called Fresh and Fit, and a lot of times I fall into, like, this hole of, like, watching their podcast and, like, not like watching because it's interesting and I'm invested, but watching how insane it is to hear people blatantly hate women and have so many incorrect opinions. And I think that is so like baffling to me that men like that have a huge platform. I watch other podcasts that are only men, and they make me laugh every single time. And it's like things that are not harmful, but like they have and they're actually bigger than that other podcasts. And so I think that was a huge trend with like there was like something on TikTok, like stop giving men podcasts and microphones. Like I like that whole thing. And I think for me, it was hard to like actually listen to that. Like it was, and that was one of those things where I would pause and like answer. Like I would like kind of pause, actually pause the video and be like, what? Like, are you serious? And like thinking, like I would actually like I said, I would actually pause the video and actually respond, like, because they're giving, like, they're saying incorrect information, and they're saying things that are just not true. And also the women on the show that they clearly invite women who either agree with them or have no true like answer, like a good, hearty answer. And so they end up making a mockery of women. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I think that for me, I'm just like, why do I sit here listening to that when I could be investing so much more time into doing the complete opposite, which is empowering people? And that's what I am going to do. And that's really where this podcast idea actually came from. Like initially. And then I tried to do it with like several other people, and like I had friends, family I was thinking about. And then I was like, with college being in the midst of what I was doing actively, it was hard for me to find time to do that. And then I was like, let's do this on our own. I think, and it speaks to like a lot of the things that I experienced like on my own, with like always feeling like I need approval from other people. And it was not like they were the problem, I was the problem. And I think doing this solo podcast and taking this adventure was something that was going to, kind of encourage me to think for myself and not think for what I think will benefit other people or satisfy other people. And so that's why I said before that this podcast is kind of like helping me, it's kind of like self-care for me. Like being able to do this, I think it's so much fun, and I find so much joy out of like prepping episodes and like making my little marketing posts and things like that. And I wanted everything to be what I envision, not what like other people think. Of course I asked for like, what do you think? But like, I don't know, I'm just excited. And so with that being said, I think that's all. Is that all? I think that's all. Yeah. So I'm excited to get into this. I appreciate everyone who's like supported me. I feel like I've gotten such an overwhelming response of like positive, a whole bunch of positive stuff. And I think that's super important for me, to be able to hear what people think and like, oh, that they're excited for this. Cause then I think that, and it's not like, I would have needed to like, because it's something I wanted to do. So like, but it's helped to know that a lot of people are excited to listen in. And it's where part of my idea for the podcast name came from, Cozy with Liyah. So Cozy with Liyah, ironically came from the Beyonce song Cozy, which is on her Renaissance album. I went to go see the Renaissance movie with my friends Liyah and Jaliyah, and we talked about how that movie like changed our life. I've been a fan of Beyonce since I was very little, and my friends are also fans of Beyonce, and so we gone to see the movie, and that movie was such a it was such like a heartwarming film, but also just so empowering. And Beyonce's always been a pioneer for like women empowerment, things like that. And like, so Cozy, her song Cozy, the line, cozy within my skin, comfortable comfortable in my skin, cozy with who I am. So I think the reason I wanted cozy to be the adjective that I chose for the title is because I want people to be comfortable with leading and navigating their lives the way that they want to do it, and being who they are and taking pride in themselves. And that's all that we could ever ask for. And a lot of times the world is like kind of against that, especially if you are a person who's like in a marginalized community. A lot of times it seems like the world, and not even all the times, it's sometimes very clear. It's not like I think. It's like, yeah, this is definitely happening. We don't feel like we can be ourselves or even be safe, like expressing who we are. And I want to be able to like speak on stuff like that and be able to know, like, encourage and like set this tone that we should be able to do that and unapologetically be ourselves. So that is the point of Cozy with Liyah. And so I'm just excited, and like I want to be able to engage with you all. And like some of you have already like approached me or messaged me and sent me like positive things, so I'm really appreciative of that. But please tune in, follow me on my social media. My podcast will be on most platforms. I'm planning for Apple Podcasts and then Spotify, of course, and then I will post the actual podcast, like the film. Like hopefully you're watching me and you've been watching me, but on YouTube. So tune in there, and then also like just tune in for little things. It might be like a certain spotlight maybe, or like I have some other ideas. Like just want to put them out there and just see what people are thinking. But if there's nothing else, I think that's all. So yeah. Thanks for coming to my first episode. This was just short, just like short, sweet, to the point. Hopefully it's short. I'll check the time when I'm done. But this was just to like, get people integrated in what this podcast was about. Just a little intro episode, who I am and what I stand for and what this podcast is going to stand for. So with that, just make sure to tune in on Sundays, every Sunday. Keep up with updates and things like that in case, something goes down, or like if you want to get a sneak peek on what the podcast episode is going to look like. Stay posted on my Instagram. DM me if you have any questions or anything like that, or any type of feedback, and engage with me. And yeah, thanks for getting cozy with me, guys. I'm so excited. Yeah, I think that's it. I keep saying that's it, and then I'm still talking. So that is it. Okay, peace.